Hi Flosstube, my name is Becca and I am SamBrie Stitches here on Flosstube and Instagram. And today is another special edition of Interview with a Flosstuber. I'm very, very excited to be doing this interview today. I have Nicola and Sandra from Hands Across the Sea Samplers. I'm trying to contain my excitement even though we chatted a little bit before the video, but I absolutely love watching the Flosstube video. I recently got into samplers and I was just telling them that I bought my first Hands Across the Sea sampler to start for Sampler September. So I'm very excited about that. And I also love seeing Birdie in the videos too. So I hope he's doing well with his recovery.
He's right by my feet actually, so you might hear him snoring.
That's great. So how are you both doing today?
I'm good, yes.
Good?
I'm really well.
I
don't do these very often.
Well, I'm really excited to ask you both some questions, and we'll get started. The first question is, why did you start a Flosstube, and were there any particular motivations?
I'll let Nicola answer that one.
Okay.
She's the Flosstuber.
Yeah.
I think that you can express so much more in a video. Mm-hmm. I feel that samplers for Sandra and I are very emotional. You know, we have a very strong, passionate love of samplers, and we can express ourselves better when we can speak.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
And I also think that because we come from different places around the world, sometimes the written word doesn't express what we really feel in, you know, like in Australia, you have Australian English, in America, you have American English, and sometimes, right, you know, it doesn't come across the right way or in the correct way when it's written. I just love Flosstube. I love watching Flosstube. You really feel as if you get to know people and you get an insight into their personal lives as well, which is really nice.
All right, yeah, the Flosstube community is just amazing as far as just the whole community getting to know each other, supporting each other. And it's a good way for designers to show their models and their charts, because it's a little bit better than seeing it online, since most of us can't see it inside a shop. So it helps get the word out there. And so the second question is a subscriber question, and they were just wondering if either of you had a blog.
Well, I haven't yet. You tell the story.
Well, I have, but I haven't added anything to it for a long time. And it's my blog was Sampler Lover. It's still there, but I haven't done anything on it for a long time. I use Facebook and Instagram more now.
That's what a lot of people say is usually, you know, either YouTube or Instagram or Facebook is kind of the new blog style. A little bit less work, I think.
Well, my husband retired, and I don't have, since he retired, I don't have this much time, funny enough, where I can spend.
Well, because you're out and living your life and doing lots of fun things, I'm sure.
You know, you go back 10 years ago and we didn't have the Needle Work groups on Facebook. We didn't have Flosstube. Sandra and I met through our blogs, and there was a big blogging community. It was the only sort of way to link up. Yeah. My blog, again, I haven't updated it for a long time, but it's still there for people to enjoy, and it's Stitching by a Cornish seashore. And that's how Sandra and I met, through blogging.
Oh, that's so neat. Well, we'll put links down below so that everybody can check them out. And
it's embarrassing when you look back at your blogs now, isn't it, Sandra?
Mine was Sampler Lover. If I didn't say it before. It's still there.
It's kind of the same for us Flosstubers. Going back to like our first videos is embarrassing. For me, at least.
Yeah. Sandra's blog is well worth visiting. She has the most beautiful stitching on there.
Oh, good. Yeah, we'll definitely put the links down below because I'm sure a lot of people will want to go check that out for sure.
Yeah.
So the next question is, how did you both learn to stitch, and how long have you been stitching?
Good.
I've always been stitching, and I learnt when I was a little girl. My great-grandmother initially taught me because I used to spend a lot of time with her. I learnt to do cross-stitch when I was in high school, and I was about 14 or 15, probably 15. And I'm old, so I've been stitching for a very long time. And, but I really got into cross-stitch probably about 1983. There used to be a shop in Sydney called Stadia, and it specialised in Danish cross-stitch. And I went there one day and fell in love with it. And then that's when I started cross-stitching. But before that, I used to do a lot of embroidery. So that's how long I've been stitching. A long, long time.
Have you noticed that a lot has changed through the years as far as stitching, like the tools and, you know, the charts and stuff like that?
Yes. Well, in the old days, it was just black and white, and you know, it was a lot of like rabbits and children's sort of things. And then samplers came along and opened up a new world. No, there's some beautiful things around.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, Sandra, we just didn't have the beautiful linens and the lovely silks.
Yes.
The market is just, the choice that's available now is...
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Australia, it's only in the last few years that you could get all the beautiful linens. Before that, it was just sort of, and it took a long time to get 40 count here.
Yeah.
And it's only now that you can get the 45 and all the beautiful overdyed linens. And the silks always been here, but the silks are quite expensive here. Mm-hmm. You have to sort of mortgage the house to do a sampler in silks, because they're quite expensive. And so a lot of Australians stitch in DMC.
Oh, okay.
But not all, but a lot of Australians do. They're quite expensive.
But the store owners are working very hard to bring in, like, their Soir range and the 103s, and they're working very hard now to bring the linen in as well for our samples anyway.
No, it's, as I said, it's only in the last few years, and really, I think since Hands Across the Sea came along, that it's sort of, the industry is got better and better. But it is lovely stitching with silks. I stitch all the models I stitch are in silks, and it's really lovely to use them. But most of my to stitch with. Most of my others are all DMC, and they're all around the room. You can't see them on the other side of the camera.
All right, and then Nicola, how did you learn to stitch?
Oh gosh, well, my grandmother was a wonderful needleworker, and I can remember sitting and watching her, embroidering, knitting, mending. But I went to a very strict girls' boarding school in the 60s and the 70s, and we were starving in school. And we had a term of domestic science, which was needlework and cooking. So you rushed through the needlework so that you could do the cooking. So you had like treats to eat. So none of us really took much interest in needlework when we were in school.
Yeah, you want a treat.
And it was probably when I was about 30, I was in a dental surgery waiting for my appointment, and I picked up a craft magazine, and there was an interview with Moira Blackburn. Mm-hmm. And there was this beautiful multiplication table sampler, and I thought, I'd love to have that for my son's bedroom. So I went off afterwards looking, could never find that particular chart, but I did find an ADA and DMC kit for one of her samplers, and I started. And I used to do a sampler every winter when I was working.
Wow.
And then many years later, when I started Hands Across the Sea Samplers, Moira Blackburn reached out to me and we got talking. And when I told her, she said that the multiplication table sampler wasn't one that she designed, that she got it out of a book. I would never have found it. So that's how it started for me. And then when I realized on the internet that there were blogs and you started seeing what people liked, because, Sandra was, had her blog way before me. And when I saw, what Sandra was stitching and what other ladies were stitching, when you fall in love with samplers, it's a really, it's addictive, isn't it, Sandra?
It is very addictive.
Yeah.
And you sort of have things that you really like, I like samplers with sheep, with flowers, red houses, and everybody has their own particular likes. They'll see a sampler and go, oh, wow.
See, that actually makes me feel a little bit better because, like I said, I just got into samplers, and I've noticed that there's a certain type that I like, and typically those are ones that have like animals of some sort in them, or some of the patriotic ones. So that makes me feel a little bit better because I know there's such a wide genre of samplers, but right now I just like this one certain type.
Yeah, no, you'll grow,
Yeah.
as you go.
I'm sure I will. It's a big rabbit hole.
Yes, the collecting habit of charts will grow very fast.
Oh, yeah.
You'll see samplers that you just have to have, You might never get to stitch them, but you've got to have the chart.
Yep. Yeah, I've been collecting other just regular, stitching charts, but I've started collecting a lot of sampler ones. I don't know if I'll get to them all, but gotta have them.
That you'll start to refine your taste, and you'll see a chart that you've just got to have, and you'll buy it, and you'll look at it, and then one day you might stitch it, but it gets to the stage that you've got so many charts that you'll be 200 years old by the time you finish it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Very deep.
You don't have to stitch a whole sampler though, Becca. You can just take elements from a sampler and incorporate it into a small, or even like we've always said, Sandra, haven't we, how much we enjoy sitting down and reading a graph, studying a graph.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You can get a lot out of a chart by just studying it.
Yeah, and you'll see something that like behind me I have a bowl of little spools, and a lot of them are from samplers, little pieces from samplers that I love, and I'll just stitch that and make it into like a pin cushion or things like that.
Ooh, I like that idea too. Just like stitch little motifs and make them into a little pillow or something.
Yeah, no, it's really lovely.
So the next question is, what is your favorite project that you've stitched so far?
Well, one that I stitched and charted was in a trench, and I loved it so much I stitched it twice.
Wow.
And it's across the sea sampler. I have two little granddaughters, so it was stitched for each granddaughter, and one is the same as the sampler, the reproduction of the sampler, and then the other one we went a bit crazy, and it's all different specialty stitches. So that one is at the attic. I'm not sure where the other one is. It's either is it in San Francisco or Canada, Nicola?
It's in San Francisco.
Yeah.
At Needle in a Haystack.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed stitching that, and a lot of love went into it. and it's a beautiful sample.
Twice.
Okay, I think mine is always the last project that I completed. I love everyone I stitch, and I just think that, you know, your sort of intense relationship is the one that you're working on at the time.
Mm-hmm. I could see
Yes,
that.
it's when you do a sampler, it's like having a baby. You know, when you start it, you know, it's, you know, you're pregnant and you go through all the, you know, the morning sickness with it, and then it's born, and it's like the child's going off to school, and then you wonder if children will like, other children will like it, and things like that. It's very similar to that.
That's a good way to put it. It puts it in a nice visual kind of storyline. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you do it, you put your heart and soul into charting it, and then stitching it, or somebody else might stitch it, and you know, you just hope that people like what you've done.
And when we see our samplers being stitched on social media, it really, really gives us a lovely thrill, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
That has to be an amazing feeling, just to see either people doing it the same way, like reproducing what the chart calls for, or sometimes they customize it, you know, for their color taste and everything like that. But
yeah, well, everybody, nobody's the same. You know, everybody's different.
yeah,
Everybody different things, and
Yeah.
you make it personal to yourself.
Yeah. And we don't mind people personalising our samples. No. In fact, we approve of it. Those little girls, they didn't all stitch their samplers the same. They all personalised their samplers, and we like to see needle workers having fun and growing when they stitch our samplers. And
Yeah,
you know, we love everything they do with them.
well, that's great. That's great. I think a lot of designers appreciate just somebody taking the time to stitch their chart, regardless of if they customize it or not. I think it's just, I'm sure it's such a great feeling.
It is.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a little bonus question for the both of you, and the question is, what chart that you've designed are you most proud of? Like your most favorite one that you've charted?
The one we're most proud of might not be our favourite.
Well, like your favorite. I think you're proud of everything, but maybe your favorite.
Well, I'll show you one. I have two models here. The other one I can't get to because I've got to climb over the beds to get it. But that's the first chart. So this is Susanna Milne. Can you see it?
That's beautiful.
So that's the first sampler that I ever charted. So it's very special to me. So that's the first one.
It's a beautiful sampler,
Yeah.
and the colours in it are glorious.
And this is another one. Nicola charted this one, and so that's water, as I call it, or when it's out, are rich. So that's the other one.
Those colors, I love those colors.
So yeah, so that was my second Hands Across the Sea sampler that I stitched. So the other one I have is How Now Brown Cow. But on the other, I have to climb over the bed to get it, and okay. Over beds.
And what we'll do you see that lovely sampler just there?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of Sandra's reproductions as well. Should we show a close-up, Sandra?
Sure. Yes, it's beautiful.
Nobody's seen this. Your viewers are having a really special treat.
Oh, how exciting. Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
And that's a Welsh sampler. And Sandra charted it and Leona stitched it, didn't she, Sandra?
Yes. Yeah. No,
That's
it's a
so, the
really
colors
beautiful.
are just so pretty in that.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's one of those, you walk in a room and you see it and you go, oh my goodness, that's stunning.
See, I want one of those pieces in my home. I think that's why I started falling in love with samplers instead of just stitching all the small little decor pieces. I want
Yeah,
something like that that I can hand down that stays in the family as like an heirloom. That is
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
For me, the reproduction I'm the proudest of is Lucy Navia.
Yes.
Um, this sampler, so many people told me was not chartable. It was too hard to chart, and it took me 18 months to chart this one. And the stitching is so minute on the original that I couldn't spend more than say 40 minutes, an hour working on her at a time, could I, Sandra? And
No.
it was a labour of love, and it nearly finished me off. To stitch her, she's a joy to stitch, but the original was so small, and to pick all the stitches out.
Wow.
My favourite is always the latest one for me, and we've just released Mary Ann Diaper. There's it's the most glorious sampler. So that's very, very beautiful, and that's the latest one. But a sampler that I'm very fond of is this one. I love this little sampler.
I love the border.
It's just very, very beautiful, very pretty. It's not a big sampler, but when you see it, it sings. There's some beautiful burnt oranges in it, and it's just so calm and restful to look at. And Lisa Brown stitched Eliza, and she had so much pleasure stitching her.
Sure.
So I'm very fond of that one.
So
So that's
pretty.
my three. I couldn't pick one.
It's my
Okay.
was complicated. Is on the way to Nicola. It's stuck in the post. So that was a complicated one.
Yeah, that was like Lucy, wasn't it?
Oh,
It
well,
a
yes.
difficult one. But that's one thing about, we always encourage each other, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Well, it helps that you're a good team to help encourage each other and work through those difficult, reproductions.
Yes, we have long chats over samplers.
Yeah. Normally, one of us is in our pajamas.
Yes, the time difference.
We're on, very different time scales.
Yeah.
We normally go, morning, Sandra.
Evening.
That's our little punchline, isn't it?
It's when the bushfires were on. We had lots and lots of face-to-face conversations.
We have stitch-ins via Facebook Messenger. And I think actually that we are running at over 1 million messages on Facebook Message. That's how much we chat, isn't it?
Wow. That's got to be some sort of record. Wow.
It's sometimes it's once a day, but quite often it's twice a day, morning or an evening.
Wow.
And it could be hundreds of messages going back and forth.
Well, messaging is kind of nice because of your time difference, you can get to it when you get to it, and it doesn't really interrupt the other person, I guess, for messaging. So the next question is, what do you enjoy most about stitching?
I enjoy that it's calming, relaxing. I found it wonderful in times of stress, great sadness. It's helped me through some difficult times, and I just enjoy sitting with a needle and stitching away, and then, you know, it just calms my inner soul, sort of, you know.
It does have that magical ability to do that.
And yes,
it's that
Mm-hmm.
it's that feel, isn't it, Sandra?
yeah, no, it's, you know, it's just something. There's just something about it that's just makes you feel happy, makes you zing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it does very much.
It's a zing in your step.
And then what about you, Nicola?
Exactly the same. It is, you know, and it's the way that needle feels as you pull that thread through. All is well in the world. And, you know, if I don't stitch, I do get twitchy. You know, and I think that sort of time at the end of the day when you can stitch with your needle, you just need it. You need it. It feeds your soul.
It definitely does. Yeah, I love it. It's just so calming, centers your mind. The next question is just, what's your favorite genre of book or movie?
Well, I love classic books and historical books. I love books like Jane Austen, Charles Dickens, Elizabeth Gaskell, and I love books by Daphne du Maurier. I love the Outlander books, and Winston Graham, you know, the Poldark books. And I love books like that. My favourite movies are sort of I don't get to see as many movies as I used to, and but I love like the BBC, you know, like Pride and Prejudice and those sorts of things. And
I love those.
Belgravia, I watched Belgravia not that long ago, and I enjoyed that. But usually I stitch and my husband watches TV, and he watches.
Usually how it goes in my house too.
So to watch the things I really love. I love English detective shows. So to watch things like that, it's usually, sometimes he's tired and he goes to bed early, so I'll get to watch the things I like. But most of the time, a lot of the things he watches I like, but a lot of it's crap.
That's why you have stitching, to keep you kind of company while he's watching.
I have the ability to switch off. That's what I can't listen to audio books, yeah, because I just switch off. It's like the news. If the news is on and you ask me a second later what happened, I don't know.
Maybe you're just really focused on your stitching.
Yes, I just switch off.
But Sandra, you do watch the news, because often I find out things that happen in this country because
yes,
it tells me.
Yes, no, my husband loves the news, so, and if he watches that all the time. He loves Parliament. He calls it the comedy hour. Question.
A good nickname for it, I suppose.
Sometimes they get there and they have a verbal fight, and it's quite entertaining. The Australian Parliament is really funny sometimes. It's a bit quiet at the moment because all the politicians from Melbourne, or most of the politicians from Melbourne, have to stay in Melbourne because of the COVID.
Oh, okay.
Parliament's on at the moment, so they switched down to their office in Canberra. So in Melbourne, I mean, it's very strange.
A different world.
Yes.
So what about you, Nicola?
I don't watch a lot of television. I love Outlander. I love the books more than I love the TV. And I can't wait for the 9th book. We've been waiting a long time for that 9th book, haven't we?
Yes.
But films, Pretty Woman, Gone with the Wind, those have always been my
I love Gone with the Wind.
all-time films, those two. Books, all the books that Sandra said, we share our taste in books. I probably add Evelyn Waugh, Graham Greene. I love any sort of book that has a good story. You know, I don't want sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I want a story. I love the insight into people's characters, and I love books where the author brings the characters to life. So,
those are the best, because you can kind of get lost in the story, which is nice, and you get invested in the story.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what fictional place would you most like to go? This is a fun one. I like this one.
This is a hard one, but I have an answer.
Okay.
Are you going to go first, Sandra?
Well, the only place I could think of is Narnia, but I don't know if I'd like to go there.
It'll be cold.
Yeah, well, it's really cold.
There.
You don't like the cold?
Oh, no, I love the cold.
Oh.
When it snows here, which is not that often, but when it snows here, it reminds me of Narnia. But no, I love the book, but I don't know if I'd like to actually go there. And then if I went to, like, the Edwardian times, I think I'd end up as the maid, so that's not so good. But no, I can't think of a place that I'd really like to go to. I'd like to go
Narnia would be fun,
but then that's a bit dangerous.
This
Nicola?
is a really hard question, and when I stopped to think about it, I actually asked a couple of my friends, you know, which fictional place would you like to go to? And it's a stinker of a question.
Mm.
And for me, the books that have always swept me away are Daphne du Maurier. You know, last night I went to Mandalay. Well, I am living in my fictional place because we moved to Cornwall, we moved to a house on the sea. You know, I love walking the cliffs. I spend hours on the headland walking, and that is my fictional place from the books that I love. So
very lucky to be able to live in, you know, the place that you want to be in.
Yeah.
And where he lives is absolutely stunning.
Oh,
Sandra, come and stay with me, and I'm going to get to Australia to stay with you.
Well, I live in a beautiful place. I live in the middle of a national park, and it's very dangerous with bushfires, but it's absolutely stunning.
Wow.
So we're both lucky where we live.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you both live in the perfect place. You don't really need to go anywhere else.
No, it is beautiful, but I could do without the bushfires. They're a bit of a worry, especially the last season. That was horrendous.
Oh, yeah.
You had your precious, irreplaceable things packed so many times to evacuate the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky because one of them, because I live in the mountains, and then at the end of the street is the Grace Valley, which goes all the way down to Sydney. And if fires get in there, they can go down to Sydney, or they can come up the escarpments, and it's not that far away. And, you know, I was in a great deal of danger of the fire coming towards us, but thankfully for us, but not so thankfully for the people on the other side, the wind changed, and lots of people lost their houses on the other side. So, you know, people died.
At one stage, you put the iPad up to the window of your house, and I could see the smoke. It was that close to you, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was just, if I go out front and look down the street, it was just on New Year's Eve, it was, so worried. I was so worried because my husband was out there fighting it. And then on Saturday, I saw where he was, and oh my God, he was driving down this narrow street. He showed me where he was. He was driving down this narrow street, and the flames were on both sides of him. You know?
Oh my gosh.
Really scary. It's,
Yeah, that's such a scary. I couldn't imagine. I would rather my husband not show me where he was. Wow.
Oh, I knew he was in danger, and this particular day, I was really worried about him, and Nicola sort of was talking to me, which calmed me down a bit.
Yeah, we used the video call. We were on there for hours, weren't we?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to leave Sandra by herself until she knew that Bob was okay, and eventually he did phone, didn't he?
Yeah. Usually he tells me where he is, and it was a long time before I heard from him. But as soon as I saw, because it was just, it's virtually just down the end of the street, and I was so worried about him.
We knew from the news that some firefighters have been badly hurt, and you couldn't get on his phone.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if he was at the one at the end of the street, or they had to send another brigade from the brigade he's in, went down south, and firefighters were badly injured, so I didn't know which one he was at. And when I heard that, I started to panic. So,
and that's why we decided to do the fundraiser, because these voluntary firefighters, they were literally fighting with just paper masks on their face, weren't they, Sandra? They didn't have masks to wear, and their boots, the soles of their boots were just melting in the heat, and they had to go out and buy their own boots and things. And we decided we wanted to do something to help them, didn't we?
Yeah. No, they don't get paid. They're all volunteers. They get the basic uniform, and then they sort of have to do what do you call it? Fundraisers to buy equipment, and then some of the equipment that my husband's brigade had on the fire engine, because their fire engine was ended up north of towards the Queensland border, and it was left up there, and then it was gradually brought back because my husband was up near Queensland, and they left the fire engine up there, and by the time it came back to them, half the equipment on the fire engine had been removed by other brigades, so they lost a lot of equipment. So,
but the needlework world came together.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
Through that little chart, we raised £31,400, English pounds, which I think after PayPal took their fees, was it about 27, 28, 29,000, Sandra?
Something like that.
Every penny that went to the firefight, and that was all made up of needle workers around the world coming together. Which was amazing.
I know that they were so grateful and just overwhelmed by the response. They didn't know that we were going to do it. And, you and I had a brain, I call them shower moments. And I told, I come up with these ideas in the shower, and I told Nicola and about it, and then off we went with Jane Marshall. And it just
amazing how I remember that time. It wasn't too long ago. The stitching community, a lot of different designers, put charts up for sale to help raise money for the Australian bushfires. And our community is amazing. They pull together.
It's
amazing. Well, I'm so glad that your husband is safe. Yes. I understand how stressed you were. My husband was in the military, and he was deployed, off to war. So I get just as much danger,
Yes.
with the fire. So. So I'm glad, and now you guys have an amazing friendship. You were there for each other through the whole thing, and everybody needs somebody like that. Yeah.
Yes, no, we're very close.
Yeah. So the next question is, if you could choose to do anything for a day, what would it be?
What would it be?
I'd like to be left alone in the Victorian Albert Museum in their,
Yeah.
textile department at the Cloth Makers Association.
All right.
For the weekend, please.
Just have
Would
a
you
day or
come
two
over
to
for
yourself.
that, Sandra?
Yes, no, that the V&A is a wonderful place. I've been there a few times. Last time I went there, I took my husband, and we really enjoyed it. I can remember the first time I ever went there. It was a room with clocks in it, and all these clocks kept going off at different times. And it was absolutely stunning because I love the sound of clocks. You might hear mine go off in a minute. Sometimes it goes off, sometimes it doesn't. And yes, the V&A is a wonderful place.
Sandra, could you imagine being locked in there for the weekend? We could have a really good rummage in the drawers.
And being left alone.
Yes. Although no, I don't know. There's I don't know. There's lots of things I'd love to do, but I really can't think of one. Go somewhere really nice would be nice.
Yeah. I think that being left alone would be kind of nice. I think we all would like that every so often, like a full day or two of just no contact.
Well, no, I really can't think of anything except being somewhere nice, left alone.
Just a getaway. A getaway works. Yeah.
Yes.
And to the next question would be, do you have any other hobbies besides cross stitch and designing for cross stitch?
I used to love doing hardanger.
Okay.
And I used to love doing that, but I don't have time now. And I love reading, and I used to like drawing. I'm not the world's greatest drawer, but I used to love drawing flowers because I love flowers. But I love researching history and going down rabbit holes and coming up other sides. I'll read something and I'll send it to Nicola and say, oh, this might be interesting for so-and-so's blog. But we call it the blurb.
Oh, fun.
You find out, when you go searching, you find out the most interesting things sometimes.
That's true. Just different little tidbits of facts and things that you can learn and use down the line. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And what about you, Nicola?
I love all needlework, and before we started Hands Across the Sea Samplers, I would quilt, I would knit, all sorts of things, but I haven't got time for that now. I think my interests are my dog. We spend hours and hours walking. History, I'm very passionate about history, and especially female history. I spend a lot of time reading and researching. I love my garden. I'm very content. I just, my world is sort of needlework, my dog, my husband, my home, walking, history.
Sounds perfect. Sounds absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So here's another kind of bonus question for the two of you, and this was a subscriber question. And they were wondering if you have any advice for someone who is interested in starting to collect samplers.
I'll let Nicola answer this one.
Okay. I think that before you buy your first sampler, you need to read about samplers, get some reference books, start to build your knowledge about them, so that when you do go antique hunting, that you can recognize, what you're looking at. I think that's really important. And, you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of pounds. You could go into a second-hand store. I think you call them thrift stores in the US.
Yes.
You know, you might pick something up for $50. You know, start small and gradually build up. And what you'll find, and we have found this, Sandra, our tastes have changed over the years. And as we've learned more about them, you start to appreciate different elements of samplers. And if you're going to buy a sampler and you're going to spend a lot of money, then you need to make sure that what you're buying is genuine. There are people out there that will try and sell you a pig in a poke. You have to be really careful. You have to be careful about buying off eBay. You know, there are genuine sellers on eBay, but also, you know, you can get caught on eBay. So, you know, you need to do your research. You know, if you were going to go and buy a house in a different area you hadn't lived in before, you would check out the area.
Right.
You would get to know the values of houses, and you know, you need to you collect with your heart, but you also have to collect with your brain as well.
Okay, that's very good advice. I know some
quick one, isn't it? What do you think, Sandra? Is anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I just say to be careful, because sometimes there are samplers that are supposedly antiques, but they're actually photos and things like that. Yeah.
Oh yes, a lot of people get caught with good quality prints and they think it's a sampler, and it's only if you take it out of the frame and you feel it, you realize it's a good quality print, because it looks as if through the glass it's actually needlework. Lots of people have got caught that way. Often, if it's too good to be true, it isn't. Is it?
That's gonna be, I don't know, I'd be scared to buy one, especially off of online. I know people mention that they go on like eBay to look for you know, samplers, and there's just too many dishonest people there.
Yeah.
Well,
but there are reputable sellers on eBay as well. But you know, you have to be careful. And you must read the descriptions properly, because because you know, obviously with eBay and paying by PayPal, you have got you know, a comeback on them. But it all depends on how they described it. And honestly, everybody gets caught. A designer friend of mine, she got caught last year buying something on eBay. When it came, it wasn't a genuine antique, it was a reproduction. And she did have a lot of trouble getting her money back, and she had to put in a claim with PayPal about that. And we've had a designer friend of ours. She bought a sampler from an antique store and it turned out to be a print, and she had to go to court over that to get her money back. So you have to be careful.
So you really just kind of need to know what you're looking for ahead of time. So yeah, definitely the research part is very good advice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the next question is kind of a fun one. Is how would your friends describe you? Or how would you describe each other would work too.
Potty.
Potty, yes. Well, happy, quiet, loves a good laugh. Sounds like a dog, but faithful. And there for each other. We both love a good laugh. I send Nicola some funny things sometimes.
You do?
And she's picking up on my humour.
Oh, nice. Rubbing off on each other a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Nicola?
Your turn.
What am I like, Sandra? I get very passionate about things.
Yeah.
I always want to do a good turn rather than a bad turn. I like to think that I'm a good friend. I'm
Yes.
there for my friends. I'm very loving. I'm very kind-hearted. I talk too much. um,
I always
I,
say I Christmas is I talk too much.
um, I love a tidy house. I'm very fussy about my house. That's probably my downside. Is I don't, I'm a bit sort of, if somebody stands up, I'll fluff the cushion behind them. I don't like clutter. And look at me, I'm cluttered in my. The study is the one place that things can be left out, but the rest of the house is just so. I love animals. Absolutely adore animals. I think that's about it, isn't it?
Yes.
Sometimes your friends that really know you can describe you better than you can describe yourself.
That is true.
As
So
my husband, he would say I'm.
yeah. So the next question is, how do you prefer to stitch? Do you in hand, do you snap a hoop, and your preferred fabric?
I love stitching 40 count linen, and I use a millennium frame, and so I stitch on that.
Oh,
So will I show this, Nicola?
Yes, show it.
So
I use a millennium frame as well.
So what I do is I use tea towels.
mm-hmm.
Quite beautiful. My son bought it from the Victorian Albert. So I use a tea towel. I stitch a long ribbon, and I use it to cover my needlework when I'm not stitching. And this is too beautiful to use washing the dishes up. So this is what I'm currently working on. So that's it.
Oh, look at those flowers.
They're violets. I think they're Palmer violets. So this is a little gem. See, it's just there. That funny little thing.
Mm.
It's called a tiki, and a tiki is this funny little. They're usually made out of green stone, and
Sandra, up a bit. That's it, perfect.
Yeah.
so they're very sacred to Maoris, and I believe that the tiki was in Maori law. The tiki was the first man, and tiki found the first woman in a pond. So it's a bit different from Adam and Eve, and that's in this book, which is on New Zealand Samplers.
So although my sample is a New Zealand one, it hasn't got a tiki, but it has got a teddy bear right in the centre. Can you see that?
Yeah.
With a little
And a red
dicky.
sail. I love it.
Love teddy bear.
I will use a hoop when I'm travelling. If I'm travelling and if I'm on a plane or just on the move, I'll have a hoop in my handbag so that I can stitch. But I do like using my millennium frame. We're both the same, aren't we, Sandra?
Yeah, I use a hoop if I go babysitting grandchildren. And sorry, noisy car. Yeah, I use the hoop then, but other than that, I always use the millennium frame.
Yeah, hoops are a lot more portable for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're on to the next question, which is, where is your favorite place that you've traveled, and did you bring stitching along when you went?
Well, I've been overseas quite a few times, mainly before I was married, and I've been to Europe, a lot of places in Europe I've been to, but I love England. I love Cornwall. I fell in love with Cornwall from Poldark, and not the recent one. It was the one in the 1970s. It was a wonderful series, and it was really good, but I think the latter one was better. So I love Cornwall and I love Scotland, and I could quite easily live in Scotland. Mm-hmm.
I think I could.
So they're my two places.
Nice.
Scotland.
Me, I love to be on the water. So my ideal holiday is on it's on a very old cruise boat, and it's a very small boat.
Mm-hmm.
And we've spent many holidays on that ship, cruising in the Mediterranean and in the Caribbean. And I have stitched many samplers on that little ship.
Oh,
So it's the ship and being on water, and I'm quite happy to go wherever that ship goes.
And the last time I went to Cornwall, I did take my stitching, and Nicola and I did stitch together.
Sandra, we've sat in this room and
Yes.
stitched
Yes.
and talked.
Yes.
sounds like the perfect getaway.
It was.
So what can you not do without for your stitching? Like your favorite go-to must-have?
My Millennium frame.
The frame.
Exactly. Yes. Good scissors and good needles. The three. Yeah, the three. The frame, the scissors, and the needles.
What type of needles do you prefer? I'm just curious.
I like Bowen.
Bowen.
Yeah.
I like John Chase.
Nice. I use Pat Carson's, but I just fell in love with the ball tip needles. Somebody had sent me some, and I love them.
Yes, Nicola has some of those, but I haven't tried them yet. I'll try 45 and try them, but I haven't tried 45 linen yet.
When you say ball tips, Becca, do you mean the ones that have like the little beads on the end? So
yeah.
that I don't like using those.
You don't?
No, for me, when I stitch, it's that lovely fluidness, and that little bead on the end of the needle. It stops my fluidness of my
it does.
my stitching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we both use ball tip, but when we say ball tip, we mean blunt, don't we? Like a tapestry point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I meant the one that has like that little bead on the end. Yeah. So this is and the next question is, how do you decide on what you're going to work on next if you do like personal type of stitching? You laugh.
That do
There's a car.
a lot of that. But we talk about what we're going to do, what we think people would like.
Every day we show where we are in our stitching to each other. I know what Sandra's stitching, she knows what I'm stitching. Sometimes we decide on something and we change our minds, don't we? We try to keep to a plan. Sort of. But we have to tell you something funny here, Becca. The very first sampler that we were going to stitch together, we still haven't done.
Oh, plans change, I guess.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
First time we planned to chart, we haven't done. That's one day, isn't it, Sandra?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we just talk about what we have and what we'd like to do and things like that, and then we just decide what we're going to do. And we go off into our little corner and start working on it.
Nice.
I'm a slow stitcher, so I take forever. I get distracted.
It's not a race.
Yep, it's all about the process. Yep,
Yeah.
for sure. So this is another kind of bonus question for you both, and it's, would you mind describing kind of your creative process and how you find inspiration when you're charting and doing the designs?
Well,
go on.
reproduction, you have to chart what is there.
Is exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so that when you're doing a reproduction sampler, that just sort of takes all of that out. It's not your choice. You are recording what that little girl chose, you know,
Okay.
200 years ago. But we've both done some original designs lately we've been working on, and we bounce off each other, don't we, Sandra?
Yeah. That's like yesterday, I came up with an idea and I did it. I thought about this for a few weeks ago. I thought about it and I thought, oh, it would look lovely. So yesterday I sat down and I charted it, and then I sent it to Nicola and she loved it. And then another one popped up.
That's exciting.
So two things came out from the original idea. And that's,
what you've got to say to Sandra, Becca, is go and get in the shower. She always comes out with an idea.
And then the ideas come. Yep.
It's a good place for ideas.
Yeah.
So the second one was Nicola's shower moment.
That was another shower moment.
Sandra showed me, because obviously it was in the morning for me, it was night for her. So I got in the shower. When I got out of the shower, I said, Sandra, I thought of something else.
That's so neat. That really is.
But you see, we know each other so well. We can share these things back and forth.
That's great. That's great that you have that close of friendship and a partnership. Nice. All right, so we are on to the final question, and it is my favorite question that I ask everybody at the very end. And it is, what's the best thing that has happened to you so far this year? I know this is a challenging question, but I like to ask it.
The best thing that's happened to us was the birth of our grandson. That was wonderful. His name is Thomas Robert Moffat, and he's 3.5 months old. And that's and there he is.
Oh my gosh.
The big baby. He's going to be very, very tall. And that's,
it's adorable.
So, yeah, he's going to be very, very tall. Vikings coming out. And
well, that is a pretty exciting thing. That's brings a lot of happiness to a pretty rough year, I'm sure.
My husband and I have 3 grandchildren now. So we have 2 granddaughters and a grandson.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
Well, I haven't got that, I'm afraid, but I think probably the most exciting thing that happened to me this year was back in January. I flew over to the States with a good friend, and we went to the Attic Needleworks and the Sampler Symposium, and we had a wonderful time at the Attic, and we had a wonderful week together. We did lots of fun things when we were in the States, so that was probably the most fun thing. And of course, since then, you know, with lockdown, it's been an odd year.
Yeah. At least we had the first couple of months of the year to be able to enjoy some things.
It's the year that you will all be glad to see the end of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
This
This year hasn't turned out as what was planned. I've never been home for so long in my life. I'm normally off somewhere every month.
Yeah, I think that's what you said in your recent video, was that you're usually just going everywhere.
Everywhere. I tell you what, British Airways owes me so much money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. Well, hopefully next year will be much better and retreats will happen again and we'll be able to kind of travel internationally because you both will be traveling internationally. So it's a crazy time right now. That's why I like to ask this question is I want people to think of, you know, something positive that's come out of such a hard time. So
yes, no, I think it'd be quite a few years before Australians start travelling again because the government's not allowing people to go overseas unless it's strictly necessary.
Oh, wow.
And so Australians probably won't go overseas for about another 2 years. Because except for Victoria, the COVID's being handled really well in Australia. And in Victoria is another matter. And it's most people that have died in Australia are in Victoria. And that's been handled.
And we're sort of still isolated because Cornwall is full of tourists at the moment. So we really are very much still isolating. We go out, but, you know, always with masks, always social distancing. The only place I've been is the supermarket, the post office and the chemist. So.
Yeah. Well, I hope that things get better. I really, really do. But until then, a lot of people have been getting more family time, you know, at home. I know I have with my girls, otherwise they'd be, you know, off at school and college. And so, yeah.
Thank God for needlework. Could you imagine being in lockdown without needlework?
Yeah. Or having anything to do, you know, during lockdown. But yeah, without my cross stitch, we were in quarantine for 3 months and I wasn't working. I was home and I got so much stitching done and it helped me stay calm, you know, in the time where you don't know what's going on because it's all new. Yeah, for sure.
My husband actually said that he realized the importance of stash because we might have had a divorce otherwise. No, we wouldn't.
Well, times like stash in hand.
Yeah. All right, so that is the end of the interview. I want to thank you both so very much for taking the time out of your day late at night and early in the morning, and it's midday for me. So I'm glad that this worked out, and I really appreciate it. I was so excited when you said yes to the interview. So many people wanted to learn so much more about you, and I'm excited to get this posted so that everybody can see it. So thank you so much. Thank you. And
Okay.
So we'll say bye to everybody on Flosstube. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.